You signed the lease. You sat in the meeting where someone called you ma'am and you almost laughed. You paid a bill on time, cooked dinner for people who trusted you to feed them, and somewhere in the middle of all that, you kept waiting to feel like a real adult. Not performing one, actually one. That feeling never quite lands, does it? You keep checking, and the room stays the same. Here's the strange comfort. Your ancestors had a name for exactly this. Not a diagnosis, a place. A room you stand in, neither child nor adult, waiting for something the modern world forgot how to give you. In a moment, you'll hear the word they used for it and why it was never meant to be a place you live in. And by the end, you'll see the one thing that actually closes that door. Something you can still do, right now, that your ancestors would recognize instantly. It starts with what one anthropologist noticed, watching that threshold open the same way in dozens of unrelated cultures. Your ancestors called it liminality, a threshold state, neither one thing nor the other. The anthropologist Arnold van Gennep named it over a century ago, studying rites of passage across dozens of cultures. He noticed the same three-part shape everywhere: separation from your old identity, a suspended middle stage where you belong to nothing yet, and finally, incorporation, a formal return as someone new. That middle stage is the part that matters here. It was never meant to last. It was a room you passed through, not a place you lived. In many foraging and small-scale societies, that middle stage had teeth. A boy might be taken from his mother's house and left alone for days. A girl might be secluded, marked, taught things she'd never been told before. The ordeal wasn't decoration. It was designed to be hard enough that going back to childhood felt impossible. But notice what came after the hardship, not just relief, but recognition. Elders welcomed the person back. The whole community adjusted how it treated them, starting that same day. The ordeal opened the door. The witnessing is what actually walked them through it. Here's the part almost nobody talks about. The ritual's real function wasn't the suffering. It was the audience. A vision quest without anyone to hear about it afterward wouldn't have worked. The scars, the seclusion, the fasting, none of it converted a child into an adult by itself. What converted them was other people agreeing, out loud, that it had happened. Your ancestors understood something modern life quietly forgot. Identity isn't a private feeling you arrive at alone. It's a status other people confer, which raises an uncomfortable question about your own life. Who exactly ever confirmed yours? Because nobody did. Not really. You got older. You maybe moved out, got a job, paid a bill on time. But no elder stood in front of your community and said out loud that you had crossed over. There was no day, no name for what you became. You simply kept living, waiting for a feeling of arrival that never quite lands, because that feeling was never supposed to arrive on its own. It was supposed to be handed to you. Your ancestors built entire institutions to make sure it was. You inherited none of them. So take a moment with this. Was there ever a moment in your life that felt like it should have counted? A graduation, a move, a first paycheck, that somehow didn't stick? What was missing from it? It's worth sitting with and worth saying out loud in the comments, because you're very likely not the only one who's noticed the gap. Naming the shape of an absence is, oddly enough, the first thing your ancestors would have done too. They didn't treat this feeling as weakness. They treated it as a design problem, and many cultures solved it with striking consistency. Among the San, the Maasai, countless indigenous nations of North America, coming-of-age ceremonies followed a similar logic. Isolate, test, then reintegrate publicly. The specifics varied wildly. A hunt, a vigil, a physical mark. But the architecture often stayed the same. Separation, liminal trial, public return. Many cultures that built this seem to understand a fact modern life quietly ignores. An unmarked transition isn't a milder version of a marked one. It's a different experience entirely, one with no edges, no closure, and no one required to notice you've changed. Modern adulthood, by contrast, arrives in fragments, scattered across years, confirmed by no one in particular. You get a driver's license at 16, vote at 18, drink at 21, maybe feel grown at some vague, unmarked point nobody names. No threshold closes. You're left standing in the same liminal room your ancestors once crossed in days, except now the door never shuts behind you. Maybe the ritual isn't gone. Maybe it's just unclaimed. You can still name the moment, tell someone it happened, ask to be witnessed. Try it below. Name the transition you never got to close and let someone else confirm it happened. That's how the threshold finally shuts.